Hello, Steve White, Trekboy 89 for Steve Arts 89. Well, looks like Paramount Skydance is giving Star Trek fans a Christmas present. Kurtzman is being told to be out by Christmas. Out of the studio. Principal photography has to be finished by Christmas, is what they're saying. Now, this would seem to coincide with statements that the producers said at some Star Trek Day events. Basically, they are now filming Star Trek Strange New Worlds Season 5 back to back with Star Trek Starfleet Academy. Normally they would be filming these things separately and sort of doing one and then the next production starts when the other one ends. But they've got them back to back because they have to be done by the end of the contract, because they have no way of knowing if, at this point, if the contract is going to be extended. So they can't leave anything out there to be finished because legally they can't finish it. Even though they have the rights to elements and characters that they've created for Strange New Worlds, and Paramount has to pay them to use them in future Star Trek they produce, they can't touch these things without the overall Star Trek license. They legally can't make anything from the Star Trek brand with any of the Star Trek IP past this contract ending without obviously a new contract being negotiated or an extension or something. So basically they have pushed the production forward and they're doing it at the same time to get it done by Christmas so they can get the post-production done by the end of the contract, which I think is June or July next year. Because weirdly enough, and this doesn't make any sense, supposedly anything filming in production they've negotiated can be finished. So as long as the show is in production, they can finish it even if it pushes it past the contract or past the sort of schedule. But they can't finish things in post-production. I'm like, well, that makes no sense. What's the point of finishing principal photography if you can't finish the post-production? I hope I didn't say pre-production before, the post-production. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. But apparently that's the situation they're in. So they're just trying to get it all done before the end of the contract. So it makes sense that they're doing it this way. And they're lucky they even got the 6 episodes, because the talk was that season 4 was just going to be the end, that Paramount wanted to cancel the show. It wasn't getting the ratings they wanted, it wasn't getting the money they wanted, it wasn't getting the attention they wanted, it was getting a lot of negative criticism. People saw the show was declining, not improving. Fans were getting more bothered by upcoming episodes and future episodes and current episodes. So they were just like, let's just end it now. 4 seasons is enough. And they're like, we need one more season. We've given fans a 5-year plan and promise, and we've set it up that way. We need another season. And they're like, well, you can have a few more episodes. How many do you need? They said 6. That's how that came about, apparently. So they're really not getting a 5th season. They're really getting an extension of the 4th season, and they've had a small hiatus, and now they're continuing on with basically finishing off the 4th season, the series, as like a truncated 5th season. So yeah, so it's a bit of a mess. They're sort of rushing through production because they have to get it out, because it doesn't look like they're going to get an extension of the contract, because apparently they did a bunch of pitches, and one of them went really bad where they were practically laughed out of the these are all rumours, of course, basically laughed out of the room, and other ones I think were taken a little more seriously but still aren't being considered. So they basically walked in there with their same product that they think is great, and the studio was like, no, we want Star Trek, this is not Star Trek, you're just giving us the same thing as before, this is ridiculous, just okay, we're just gonna make it ourselves, which I think is the smart move, because these people are only there to make money. So obviously they're paying, it's costing more to produce this Star Trek because they need their cut. If Skydance produces it themselves, they're just paying for the production. They're not paying for someone else to produce it for them and then maybe exaggerating the cost of production so they get to keep some of that cut as well, which I'm sure they've been doing, because there's no way these episodes, they're supposedly costing like 10 million episodes. You watch that on screen, there's not $10 million there. No way. So we're going to see either a much cheaper show that looks the same coming out, that's much more cost effective, or we're going to see a great show that actually looks like the 10 million they're spending. But here's the other issue, which I brought up in another video, but I'll touch here. Even if they get rid of Kurtzman and they allow Star Trek to go back to being niche and just creating content for science fiction fans and Star Trek fans, because of the conservative nature of the new studio and their politics, we won't be seeing progressive Star Trek. We won't be seeing the diverse cast and progressive themes. We won't be seeing gay characters and things like that. So Star Trek was always not just science fiction, but progressive science fiction. And although the conservatives are going to love the new Star Trek with its, colonizing, white Starfleet going through the universe, white splaining or earth splaining or human splaining to aliens how to be good Christians, which is what the new show is going to be. Obviously, that's not really Star Trek. Star Trek was progressive science fiction. So even if they pull it back and allow it to be more niche and actual science fiction, not science fantasy, melodrama and YA, it's still not going to be progressive. So it's not really going to be Star Trek. It has to be progressive science fiction. It can't just be a show set in space or a melodrama or science fiction with no, allegory and, progressive themes and that. So we're never really going to get Star Trek again. Star Trek is dead. Star Trek is over. But I'll be curious to see what does come out of it. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of this current production and everything and all it means.